Formula One's return to the African continent has been a long time coming. The last time the world's premier motorsport category graced Africa was in 1993 in South Africa, but a return is becoming a question of when, rather than if. South Africa remains the most likely host for an African Grand Prix, but it's far from the only nation bidding for a place on the F1 calendar. There has been a huge development in the South African bid, with tracks revealed and a date for the first race set. And today I'll check it all out, so don't go anywhere. A return of Formula One to the African continent has been on the cards for a long time now. The F1 grid is all on board with a return to Africa. Seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has long been an advocate for an African Grand Prix, and that sentiment is spreading among fellow drivers. "I would like to race in Africa. We're very excited to be on that road," reigning champion Max Verstappen has said. McLaren's Lando Norris, meanwhile, thinks Africa would be the perfect place to introduce F1 to new audiences. However, F1 drivers are not the decision-makers of the sport, and the hosting of an F1 race in Africa is not as simple as the drivers saying they would like to do it. The FIA has strict regulations, which dictate whether a circuit can host a race or not. If the circuit doesn't fulfill the criteria of a Grade 1 circuit, the highest grade in the FIA's ranking system, then it cannot host Formula One. At the moment, there are only 38 Grade 1 circuits in the world, and none of them are in Africa. Then, Formula One management has to negotiate the commercial side of the equation, negotiating a price that the organizers have to pay for the right to host the race, and deciding which race will lose its place on the calendar to make space for the new one. It is a far more complex process than just putting together a snazzy PowerPoint presentation to woo Formula One with. At the moment, there are two countries leading the way to bring F1 to Africa. The first is South Africa, on the southern tip of the continent, and the second is Rwanda, placed more centrally in the continent. The two are a little over 2,000 miles apart, just slightly closer together than the Miami and Las Vegas Grand Prix are. The only thing stopping both countries from launching successful bids is space on the F1 calendar, which is already at capacity with 24 races per year. The bid that seems to be gathering the most speed at the moment is the South African Grand Prix, with 3 potential sites vying to be put forward to Formula One as well as a start date being set. The country's sport minister, Gayton McKenzie, said this week that there had been discussions with the Formula One organizers and that the country will be submitting its bid in May to host a Grand Prix in 2027. Talks with potential sponsors such as Heineken and Red Bull, among others, to help raise the capital needed to enter the bid are already underway, he said, with $50 million needing to be raised to help fund the bid. "It's clear that people want to invest in this," said McKenzie. "We have also gotten some promising news that Holland is not coming back, so we might be getting that space in 2027. McKenzie estimated the annual hosting cost at R2 billion, which is roughly $106 million, yet reassured the public that private sector sponsors are showing significant interest, with offers exceeding $20 million for the hospitality rights alone. Potential racetracks have had the deadline to submit bids recently extended to mid-March, with Cape Town and Johannesburg among those hoping to host the event. McKenzie said all South Africans and interested investors wanting to be part of hosting the event should enter their bids and join the government in its Formula One push, rather than trying to do it separately. "I am saying to you that if I don't bring Formula One to South Africa, then I have failed as a Minister of Sports," McKenzie said of the position to which he was appointed in June as part of a newly formed coalition government. Formula One is coming by fire or by force. So with a planned date of 2027, what are the leading bids looking like to host the race? Kyalami, which last hosted the race in 1993, is one frontrunner, pending ongoing work to elevate the circuit to the required FIA Grade 1 standard. Another bid comes from the Cape Town Grand Prix SA, which intends to host a race on a 5.7-kilometer street track around Cape Town's waterfront and a DHL stadium, the same area that hosted a one-off Formula E race in 2023. A purpose-built circuit on the city outskirts is another option. The circuit at Kyalami in Johannesburg, the former home of the South African Grand Prix, is a ready-made solution, and although the venue will need some modification to bring it up to current F1 standards, as it is currently only Grade 2, the cost of doing that is much less than building somewhere up from scratch. Kyalami seems to be very much the preferred option for McKenzie, who told South African publication SuperSport late last year that he felt that this was the place that would be chosen. "The race is going to happen at Kyalami," he said. "Kyalami is doing what they need to do. Circuit bosses, Toby Venter and Willie Venter, are doing a great job bringing Kyalami to F1 standards. They've put money in there, it is there. The problem for Kyalami is that it has recently tried and failed to host a Formula One race. In 2023, it tried to get itself onto the calendar, but the financial backing to actually make the race happen never materialized. There should also be questions asked over how good the racing will be at Kyalami. People may have fond memories of the track from the early 90s, but F1 cars are completely different now and are far larger. The track itself is relatively thin for most of its distance, and overtaking opportunities could be limited to just the first corner. Whether the quality of the racing will even register as a consideration for Formula One management, though, is another question entirely. Before I carry on to talk about the other two bids hoping to enter the sport in 2027, if you enjoy the content we bring you and want to catch all the news in the lead up to the 2025 F1 season, then make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. So Cape Town is the other city in South Africa that is trying to host a race, though there are two separate bids to try and host the race in the city. The first is from local promoter Cape Town Grand Prix SA, which has revealed its proposal to hold a street race on a 5.7-kilometer circuit that runs around the DHL Stadium to the northwest of the city. This is the same location that held a Formula E race in February 2023. The circuit design is based on roads that run around the DHL Stadium, which had originally been built as a host venue for the country's 2010 Football World Cup. Its location ticks off one of the criteria laid down in the South Africa bid request, which demands the venue be an iconic destination location. The bid document demands that the surrounding environment must contribute to the look and feel of a premier international event, and/or provide an iconic backdrop. That fits in with the Cape Town location, being set right on the Atlantic seaboard, as well as the dramatic scenery of the city that sits under the shadow of Table Mountain. The Formula E race that was held at the circuit was a hit with fans, but financially it just didn't add up, so it was cancelled for the following season. The Formula One circuit will roughly follow the same route as the Formula E race, but on an extended route. The circuit was incredibly high speed for Formula E, labelled by eventual race winner Antonio Felix da Costa as having a Monza-type feel. However, it wasn't without its problems. The track surface was incredibly bumpy. Drivers experienced their cars lifting all four wheels off the ground on occasions, and Mahindra withdrew all its cars for the race amid concerns about suspension problems. With the ground effect still being present in the next era of F1 cars, a bumpy track could cause chaos, with cars bottoming out and losing traction, creating a dangerous issue. The second Cape Town bid is far less developed than the existing Formula E plan. The idea is to have a race in the Wakanda Smart City development, which, at the moment, is just the plan of a business development. The Smart City will be built on a private beachfront in Eastern Cape along the Nelson Mandela Corridor that aims to become a business hub like Singapore and Dubai, and it includes plans to construct a Grand Prix track there, but it will not be ready for up to 10 years. The plan is to utilize cruise ships as accommodation for spectators. The boats will be parked up in the harbour and could host 100 to 200,000 fans apparently. From the details released so far though, the whole plan seems like one for the distant future, not 2027. If South Africa does end up hosting a Grand Prix in 2027, where do you think it will be? Kyalami or Cape Town? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.